10 years ago, the small border town of Halley's Rest was quiet, almost forgotten by the rest of the human colonies. Dusty streets stretched under a pale orange sky, and the only sounds came from the hum of old machines and the wind rolling over the dry hills. Eli Moran was in his workshop, wiping the grease off his hands, when he heard the sound of a ship landing wrong, uneven, like something was breaking apart in midair. He stepped outside and saw smoke trailing from a small shuttle as it struggled to land behind the ridge, barely made it, hitting the ground hard and sliding to a stop. Eli should have minded his own business. People in border towns knew not to poke their noses into other people's troubles. But something in his chest told him to go. He grabbed his toolkit and ran toward the wreck. The shuttle was scorched, the hull cracked open in several places. Inside, a figure slumped over the controls. At first, Eli thought it was human, but when he stepped closer, he saw the skin was faintly silver under the burns, and the eyes half closed, glowed faintly blue. The stranger was breathing, but just barely. "Hey, stay with me," Eli said, even though he had no idea if the stranger understood him. He pulled the figure out. Laying him on the ground, the air smelled like burning metal and ozone. Eli didn't ask questions. He dragged the stranger to his workshop, worked through the night to patch both the man and the ship. He used every part, every scrap of fuel, even gave up his own emergency food supply. The stranger never spoke, only watched him with eyes that seemed to carry entire galaxies inside. By dawn, the shuttle was fixed enough to fly. The stranger stood in the doorway, swaying slightly, then reached into his coat and placed a small metal coin in Eli's hand. It was heavier than it looked, smooth on one side, etched with strange symbols on the other. No words, no thanks, just a silent nod. Then the stranger stepped into the ship and vanished into the rising sun. Eli didn't tell anyone. The coin sat in a small drawer for years, forgotten, while life went on. He repaired farm equipment, fixed old comms towers, and watched cargo. Ships pass far overhead. Nothing ever happened in Halley's Rest. Until now, it started with a low hum in the sky, too deep for human ships. People came out into the streets, shading their eyes as shadows passed overhead. Sleek silver shapes cut through the clouds, their hulls covered in markings no one recognized. They weren't cargo ships. They weren't human at all. The local comm stations sent out a warning. Unknown vessels in orbit. All citizens remain. Indoors, Eli's stomach tightened. He didn't know why, but he thought of that coin for the first time in years. That night, while the sky glowed faintly from the ships above, Eli's workshop exploded. The blast threw him into the dirt, ears ringing, eyes full of dust. When he staggered to his feet, the building was gun-reduced to fire and twisted metal. Through the smoke, he saw shadows moving, figures in black armor, tall and thin, scanning the debris. One of them turned toward him, and he felt a sharp jolt of fear. He ran, heart pounding, but they didn't follow. Instead, they spoke into strange devices and looked up at the sky, as if waiting for something, and then it came. A deep, thrumming roar shook the ground as a massive ship descended through the clouds. It was unlike anything Eli had ever seen, black and gold, shaped like a predator from some alien ocean. The ground cracked under its weight as it landed outside the edge of town. People hid behind walls, peering out, afraid to breathe. From the ship's side, a ramp lowered. A group of alien soldiers stepped out, their armor gleaming in the fading light. They moved with precision, scanning the streets, till their leader, a tall figure with a crimson crest on his helmet, spotted Eli. The leader stepped forward, his voice deep and resonant, the translator on his armor clicking to life. "Eli Moran," he said, each word heavy with meaning. "By order of the Emperor of the Varix Dominion, we have come to take you." Eli froze. The name meant nothing to him, but the way the alien spoke, it left no doubt this was serious. People in the shadows stared, their eyes wide. Eli's mind raced, trying to understand. Why him? How did they know his name? The leader raised a hand, and the soldiers moved closer. Eli took a step back, his heart hammering. "I think you have." "The wrong," he began. But then the alien held up something in his clawed hand. It was a coin, exactly like the one in Eli's drawer. Eli didn't know it yet. But the simple act of kindness he had shown a dying stranger a decade ago was about to pull him into the heart of a galactic storm. 10 years had passed since. Eli Moran had last seen the strange silver-eyed man, but the alien standing before him in the dusty street left no doubt they were connected. The coin glinted in the soldier's claw, catching the fading sunlight like it had been waiting all these years for this moment. Before Eli could speak, the alien captain stepped closer, his presence pressing against the air like a heavy storm. "Our Emperor owes you a debt, human," the captain said through the mechanical hum of his translator. "He has commanded us to protect you, God. But there are those who would rather see you dead before that debt is paid." The townsfolk were still, watching from behind corners, frozen in fear. Eli could feel their eyes on him, their unspoken questions burning in the silence. Protection? From what? And why would an alien emperor care about a nobody mechanic on a forgotten border world? Two of the alien soldiers moved to flank Eli. Their armor hissed softly with each step, the gold and black plates catching the last light of the day. Eli's instincts told him to run, but something deeper curiosity maybe kept his feet rooted. They led him toward the massive ship, its ramp stretching down like the tongue of some great beast. The air around it shimmered faintly, a low hum vibrating in his bones. Just before they reached the ramp, the captain glanced up at the sky. His eyes narrowed. From above, 3 smaller ships streaked down through the clouds, their hulls black and angular. No gold markings, no insignia. Captain's tone hardened. Assassins. The alien soldiers moved instantly, weapons drawn. Forming a shield around Eli, blasts of green energy cut through the air, searing the ground where he'd been standing seconds before. Eli stumbled backward, the heat washing over his face. One of the attackers broke through the haze of smoke and dust, moving faster than any human should. They slammed into the nearest soldier, knocking him down, and rushed straight for Eli. It wasn't until they were almost on him that he saw the attacker's face. Human, the man was lean, scarred cheeks and cold eyes that locked on Eli like a predator sighting prey. He swung a curved blade, the metal catching the ship's glow. Eli barely ducked, feeling the wind of the strike pass over his head. The captain barked an order in his own language, and one of the alien soldiers fired, hitting the attacker square in the chest. The human collapsed, the blade falling to the dirt, but Eli's relief was short-lived. The captain knelt beside the body, scanning it with a small device. His alien features tightened, a rare sign of concern. "Your own kind has sold you," he said. "They know who you are. They know what you carry." Eli blinked, confused. "What I carry? I don't have anything." The captain reached into his armor and pulled out the coin again, holding it between 2 clawed fingers. "This is more than it appears. It is a key, and there are many who would kill for it." Eli's mind spun. The coin had been sitting in his drawer for 10 years, nothing more than a strange souvenir from a stranger he'd helped once. A key? To what? The captain didn't answer his unspoken question. Instead, he straightened and gave a sharp order. The soldiers hustled Eli up the ramp, the hum of the ship growing louder. As the engines warmed, the ground shook, dust swirling in the air through the viewport. Eli caught a glimpse of the other attackers retreating into the darkness. There. Ships lifting off and vanishing into the clouds. Whoever they were, they would be back. The alien captain turned to him, his voice low but heavy with meaning. "You are now under the protection of the Varric's dominion. You will come with us to the Emperor. He will explain everything." Eli swallowed hard, gripping the seat as the ship lifted from the ground. Below, Halley's Rest grew smaller and smaller until it was nothing more than a scattering of lights in the endless desert. He had no idea that he had just left his old life forever, and that the debt he had unknowingly earned a decade ago was about to change the fate of the galaxy. The Varric ship cut through the dark between stars, its hull glowing faintly from the heat of atmospheric exit. Eli sat strapped into a narrow seat, the hum of alien machinery all around him. The soldiers moved with silent precision, their armor whispering against the floor. Across from him, the captain studied the coin in his clawed hand, like it was a weapon ready to go off. For hours, no one spoke. The stars outside the viewport drifted slowly, brighter here than Eli had ever seen them. From the surface, he tried to piece together what had happened, but nothing made sense. Elind warships, human assassins, an emperor who owed him a debt. The more he thought about it, the more that small metal coin seemed to burn in his pocket. Finally, the captain broke the silence. "That object you keep," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "is a quantum key. It does not open a door. It opens a place. A place the galaxy has forgotten, but one our enemies remember well." Eli frowned. "What kind of place?" The captain's gaze shifted to the stars beyond the glass. "An ark," he said, "station built by a race older than the Dominion. It holds technology that can change the outcome of any war. The one who commands it can shape the galaxy itself." Eli laughed softly, shaking his head. "You've got the wrong guy. Just a mechanic. I fix engines. I don't. Command stations." The captain's eyes glinted. "The key chooses its bearer. You were chosen the moment you acted without expecting reward." Before Eli could argue, the ship's warning lights flashed red. The crew moved quickly, voices sharp in their own language. The captain's translator clicked. "We are being followed." Eli craned his neck toward the viewport. Behind them, tiny lights were growing, pursuing ships, too small for warships, too fast for freighters. A sudden jolt shook the deck. Weapons. Fire lit up the void, bursts of green and white against the black. The captain barked an order, and the Varric ship dove toward a thick belt of asteroids. Rocks tumbled past the windows, some spinning slowly, others colliding in bursts of dust and debris. Eli gripped the straps across his chest as the ship weaved through the field. Another blast rattled the hull, close enough to make the lights flicker. The captain pulled something from a compartment, a palm-sized device covered in markings. "Give me the key," he said. Eli hesitated. "What are you going to do with it?" "Hide us for now." Reluctantly, Eli handed over the coin. Captain pressed it into the device, and the symbols on both began to glow with a pale blue light. Eli felt the hair on his arms rise. As if static electricity filled the air, the ship shimmered. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to blur, and the chasing vessels swept past without noticing. The captain removed the coin and handed it back. "The key has many functions." Was only one. As the danger passed, Eli stared at the coin in his hand. The metal felt warm now, almost alive. A faint line of light traced along the strange symbols, shifting like it was breathing. When they finally emerged from the asteroid belt, the captain brought up a star map on the central display. Points of light filled the screen, but one pulsed. Faintly, far from any known trade routes. "That is where the Ark sleeps," he said. "The map is hidden inside the key, and now it has revealed itself." Ali leaned closer. "How do you know it's the right place?" "Because it does. Not appear on our charts, or yours. And because our enemies are already moving toward it." Eli looked at the pulsing point of light. He didn't want to admit it, but some part of him felt pulled toward it. It's the same way he had been pulled toward that broken shuttle 10 years ago, before he could speak. The ship's sensors beeped again, 3 more ships dropping out of faster than light. Travel ahead of them, blocking their path. The captain's voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "They know where we are going, and they will not let us pass without blood." Eli's grip tightened on the coin. He still didn't know exactly what it was or why it had chosen him, but he was starting to understand one thing. Whatever this Ark was worth killing for. The Varric ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a lurch that pressed Eli back into his seat. The 3 hostile ships ahead of them drifted like black knives in the void, their edges glowing faintly from shield heat. No insignias, no transponder codes. Just silence. The kind that felt like a held breath before a strike. The captain studied the tactical display. "We cannot outrun them. We will go around," he said, though his tone suggested that around might not be simple. His clawed hand traced a path through a cluster of unmarked systems territory the Dominion avoided for a reason. As the ship turned, The stars outside began to change. The safe, familiar constellations disappeared, placed by a jagged belt of fractured planets. Their surfaces cracked and glowing faintly, as if something had broken them from within. The combs filled with faint static like distant whispers. "This is the Shatterfield," the captain said. "A graveyard of old wars. Dangerous, but our enemies will hesitate to follow." Eli wasn't so sure. The moment they crossed into the field, the sensors lit up with dozens of small, fast-moving objects. At first, he thought they were debris, and one of them changed course and began moving toward them. "Not debris," the captain muttered. "Scavengers." The scavenger ships were ugly, patched together from scrap, bristling with mismatched weapons. Their combs crackled to life in a language Eli didn't understand, but the tone was unmistakable, demanding, aggressive. "They want us to stop," one of the soldiers translated, "and give them you." Eli's stomach tightened. "Me, I'm nobody." "Not to them," the captain said, eyes flicking to the coin in Eli's hand. "Word travels fast in the shadows. I know you carry something worth more than a fleet." Scavengers opened fire. Bolts of rust-colored energy streaked past the viewport, close enough to make the hull shiver. The captain ordered evasive maneuvers, and the ship dove between the jagged remains of what had once been a moon. Shards of rock the size of towers drifted past, some close enough to scrape their shields. Eli clutched the armrest as the ship twisted sharply. "You can't keep this up forever," he said. The captain didn't answer. Instead, he opened a private comm channel to his crew in their own language. Eli didn't catch the words, but he recognized the tonette was the kind of voice a man used when giving orders he didn't like. They broke through the last cluster of debris and emerged into a narrow corridor between two shattered planets. The sensors showed the scavengers right behind them, more ships joining the chase. Then, just ahead, a massive derelict appeared, an ancient station drifting lifeless in the dark, its surface scarred by centuries of micrometeor strikes. The captain's eyes narrowed. "We will hide there." The station loomed larger and larger until it filled the viewport. The Varric's ship slipped through a gaping wound in its hull, weaving between dangling beams and twisted corridors. Inside, the darkness swallowed them, broken only by the soft glow of their running lights. They powered down everything engines. Lights, even life support to minimum. Outside, the scavenger ships drifted past, their searchlights cutting thin lines through the void. One of them slowed, hovering just beyond the breach. Eli held his breath as if that could make them invisible. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the scavengers moved on, vanishing into the black. The ship's systems powered back up. But before they could leave, the sensors caught something deeper inside the derelict, an energy signature, faint but unmistakable. The captain's brow furrowed. "This station is older than the Shatterfield War. That reading, it matches the key." Eli's fingers tightened around the coin. "Matches it how?" The captain looked at him. "It is calling to it." Eli didn't like the sound of that. But he liked what happened next even less, because before anyone could speak, the entire station trembled, and a deep metallic voice echoed through the comm in perfect, calm English. "Bearer of the key, proceed." The soldiers froze. The captain's hand went to his weapon. Eli's pulse thundered in his ears. He had the sinking feeling that the ark they were chasing wasn't as far away as the map had said. The Varric's captain didn't waste time debating what the voice meant. "We leave," he said sharply, ordering the crew to push the engines to full burn. The derelict station slipped away into darkness as they accelerated out of the Shatterfield. But Eli could still hear the voice in his head, faint and echoing, like it had settled somewhere behind his thoughts. They returned to the map. The pulsing point, the ark's location, was deep inside enemy territory, controlled by the Korth Syndicate, a brutal network of warlords and smugglers who owed loyalty to no empire. The captain's tone was grim. "Cannot enter their space openly. We will need disguises." The crew set to work. Gold and black Dominion armor was swapped for scavenger-grade plates. The sleek warship's hull was painted in dull grays and reds, its transponder broadcasting a stolen pirate ID code. Even Eli was given a battered jacket and a fake ID chip marking him as a traitor from a distant mining world. When they approached the Syndicate's border, a swarm of rust-streaked patrol craft intercepted them. Through the viewport, Eli saw jagged hulls and ships bristling with mismatched weapons. The patrol leader's voice came through in a gravelly growl. "State your business." The captain's translator stayed off, spoke in the Syndicate's tongue, smooth and confident. After a tense silence, the patrol ships peeled away, letting them pass. Eli exhaled slowly. Inside Syndicate space, the stars were dimmer, choked by vast fields of orbital junk. Cities clung to asteroids, their lights flickering through the haze. On every comm channel, Eli heard threats, bargaining, desperate pleas. Life here was ruled by violence and trade, and often both at once. 3 jumps later, they arrived at a system unlike the others. A massive gas giant swirled below, and in its orbit floated something vast, an oval-shaped structure the size of a small moon. Its surface a patchwork of silver and black plates. The ark, even cloaked in centuries of dust, it looked alive. Lines of faint blue light pulsed slowly across, its hull like veins under skin. Eli couldn't look away. "That thing's been here the whole time?" The captain nodded, hidden in plain sight. "The Syndicate believes it's just a dead relic. They do not know what it can do." Before they could approach, a warning ping flashed on the sensors. 6 Syndicate warships were anchored nearby. Getting to the ark meant slipping past them unseen. The captain turned to Eli. "You will come with me. The key will open the way, but only if you are present. We will use the station's old docking ports. The rest of the crew will stay hidden." They transferred to a small stealth shuttle. Its engines purred so softly Eli could barely feel movement as they drifted toward the ark's shadow. Every moment, he expected the Syndicate ships to notice. When they finally touched the ark's surface, the metal beneath their feet was cold but smooth, as if untouched by time. They found a sealed hatch, half buried in dust. The captain gestured for Eli to bring out the coin. The moment Eli held it near the hatch, the etched symbols lit up. The metal groaned, and the hatch slid open with a hiss of ancient air. Inside, dim blue lights flickered to life, stretching down a long corridor. They stepped inside, boots echoing softly on the floor. The air smelled faintly of ozone, as if something had just woken from a very long sleep. Halfway down the corridor, a deep, calm voice rolled through the space, not from speakers, but from everywhere at once. "Bearer of the key, your presence is acknowledged. Do you seek to awaken the ark?" Eli froze. His mouth felt dry. "I don't even know what that means." The voice didn't answer. Instead, a panel on the wall slid open, revealing a faintly glowing console. The captain urged him forward. "Touch it." Eli reached out, his fingers brushing the surface. The entire corridor lit up at once, the blue lines flaring bright and racing deeper into the station. Somewhere far away, machinery began to hum. The captain smiled faintly. "It has recognized you." Before Eli could respond, the lights shifted to red, and a different sound echoed through the ark, a sharp, piercing alarm. The captain's expression hardened. "They know we are here." From the docking hatch behind them came the sound of metal scraping, boots hitting the floor. It's Syndicate soldiers, armed and closing fast. The sound of Syndicate boots on metal grew sharper, echoing through the ark's long corridors. Eli's pulse quickened. The captain motioned for him to move, and they slipped deeper into the structure, guided by the faint blue lines now running along the walls and floor. The ark felt alive. The walls were smooth, without bolts or seams, curving like they'd been grown rather than built. As they ran, doors slid open automatically, then sealed behind them without a sound. The Syndicate soldiers' shouts grew muffled, but Eli knew they were still coming. They reached a wide chamber. In the center stood a column of pale light stretching from floor to ceiling. The captain stopped, turning to Eli. "This is the ark's core," he said. "Its intelligence will speak to you here." Before Eli could ask what that meant, the light twisted, forming the shape of a tall figure, faint, translucent, but unmistakably alien. Its eyes glowed like the coin's markings, and its voice filled the room. Bearer of the key. 10 years ago, you altered the course of the galaxy. Eli stared. I fixed a ship. That's all I did. The figure shook its head slowly. The one you aided was the heir to the Varric's throne, hunted by his own council. Without you, he would have perished, and the Dominion would have fallen into the hands of those who sought this ark for war. Eli turned to the captain. The stranger? That was your emperor? The captain inclined his head. Yes. He never told you because the less you knew, the safer you were. The figure stepped closer, its light flickering faintly. This ark was designed not for conquest but for preservation. It will only respond to one chosen by the Keeper's Code 1, who acts without expectation of return. You were chosen the moment you refused payment for your aid. Eli shook his head. I'm not. The figure cut him off. You are, and now you must decide if the ark will sleep or awaken. Before Eli could speak, the captain's crackled gunfire echoed faintly through it. The soldiers guarding the shuttle were under attack. Syndicate forces had found them. The captain stepped closer to Eli. If the Syndicate takes control of this ark, the war will never end. Millions will die. Eli looked between them, the weight of the coin suddenly heavier in his hand. And if I activate it? The figure's voice was calm. The ark's power will be yours to command. Creation or destruction. The choice will define this age. The pounding of Syndicate boots was back, much closer now. The captain drew his weapon, eyes fixed on the corridor. Decide quickly. They are nearly here. The blue lines along the floor shifted toward the core, pulsing faster, as if urging him forward. Eli stepped toward the light, the coin warm against his palm. The alien figure reached out a glowing hand, and then the chamber doors blew open. Syndicate soldiers poured in, weapons raised, shouting in their harsh tongue. The captain fired, the air filling with the hiss of energy blasts. Through the chaos, Eli heard the figure's voice again, clear, unshaken. Bearer of the key, do you choose? The light of the core brightened, filling his vision until he saw nothing else. And then, his hand began to move. Blaster fire tore through the chamber, bursts of heat and light reflecting off the smooth walls. The captain's soldiers returned fire, but the Syndicate fighters kept pouring in. Stepping over their fallen without hesitation, Eli stood in the center of it all, the coin clutched tight in his fist, the ark's core blazing so brightly it felt like standing in the middle of a star. The alien figure of light moved closer, its form becoming sharper, almost solid. Bearer of the key, it said, its voice somehow cutting through the chaos. The ark stands ready. Choose. Eli's throat was dry. Choose what? The figure raised a long, luminous hand, and suddenly the light shifted. Around him bloomed two visions, vivid and real. On his left, the ark unleashed a wave of energy that swept through the galaxy, shattering enemy fleets, erasing the Syndicates. Strongholds. Worlds that had suffered under their rule were free, but the silence afterward felt empty. On his right, the ark powered down its weapons forever, sealing itself from all who sought it. Without its power, the war would drag on. But no single-hand good or evil would ever control the galaxy's fate. You can end this war now, the figure said. But in doing so, you will choose who rules the galaxy, or you can preserve balance and let history unfold without your touch. A Syndicate blast hit the wall near Eli's head, showering him with sparks. The captain shouted over the commotion, "If you hesitate, we lose everything." Eli looked at the captain. "And what happens if I give it to you?" "The Dominion will protect it," the captain said without hesitation. But his tone sharp, almost desperate, made Eli wonder if protect meant control. The figure of light spoke again. "The ark will obey only you, not them, not the Syndicate. You." More Syndicate troops charged into the chamber. The captain and his soldiers were being pushed back, their formation breaking. One fighter leaped forward, blade in hand, aiming straight for Eli. Without thinking, the coin in his palm flared, and the attacker was hurled backward by an invisible Force. The captain's eyes widened. It's responding to you already. Eli turned back to the core. The two visions still burned in his mind, one of decisive victory, the other of restraint and uncertainty. The figure waited, its glowing hand extended. You must decide now, creation or destruction. The sounds of battle faded into a low, pulsing hum as Eli stepped closer to the light. His hand trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of the choice. The coin's glow spread up his arm, wrapping him in soft blue light. He took a breath. His decision formed in his chest, solid and unshakable, and then without another word, Eli placed the coin into the heart of the core. The ark roared to life. The floor shook. The blue veins of light shot out through the walls, racing down unseen corridors. The Syndicate soldiers froze mid-attack, staring in shock as the entire chamber lit with impossible brilliance. The captain shielded his eyes, shouting something. Eli couldn't hear over the rising hum. The alien figure smiled faintly. It is done. The galaxy will remember this day. And then, in an instant, everything went white. The white light faded slowly. Like the last glow of a dying sun, and Eli found himself standing in the same chamber, but it wasn't the same at all. The ark was alive now, every wall and floor humming with steady power. The Syndicate soldiers, moments ago charging, stood frozen in place, their weapons hanging uselessly at their sides. Outside, through the viewport high in the chamber wall, the void shimmered. Great arcs of blue energy spread outward from the ark, like ripples in a pond. They didn't destroy, they silenced. Syndicate warships that had been orbiting the station now drifted, their engines and weapons completely dead. Even the Dominion escort ships, far beyond the gas giant, floated quietly, powerless but intact. The captain looked around in awe. You've disabled them. All of them. Eli could feel it somehow. The ark's energy was still flowing through him, steady and warm, like a second heartbeat. The alien figure appeared once more, its voice carrying a note of satisfaction. Conflict ends when no side can raise a weapon. You have chosen balance. The Syndicate fighters slowly backed away, no longer a blur, willing to fight. Some dropped their weapons entirely. The captain's men watched them, uncertain, but no one fired. For the first time since Eli had left his homeworld, the air felt still. From somewhere deep in the ark, a low, resonant tone echoed a signal. The ark's peace field will last 7 cycles, the figure said. Enough time for talks, for treaties if those in power wish it. What happens after will be for them to decide. The captain turned to Eli. The Emperor will want to see you honored. Could live in the Dominion, wealthy for the rest of your days. Eli shook his head. I'm not staying. I've had enough of people pointing guns at me, even if they can't fire them right now. The captain studied him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. Then at least accept safe passage home. When they left the ark, the Dominion ship drifted silently away from the gas giant, gliding past Syndicate cruisers that could do nothing but watch. Not a single shot was fired. Days later, the ship set down in Halley's Rest. Eli stepped onto the dusty ground, the familiar wind carrying the scent of dry earth. The town looked the same as it had before, quiet, almost forgotten. As the captain prepared to leave, he handed Eli the coin. The ark is bound to you. If you ever need it again, it will hear you. Eli pocketed it without a word, watching. As the Dominion ship rose into the sky and vanished among the stars. That night, back in his rebuilt workshop, Eli sat at his workbench, tools scattered around him. For the first time in weeks, there was silence. He reached into his pocket, turning the coin over in his fingers. It pulsed once, just faintly like a heartbeat, and in the quiet, a voice spoke in his mind. The galaxy still watches over you, Eli. Smiled faintly to himself, set the coin down beside his tools, and went back to work. Because, for now at least, the galaxy didn't need saving, but somewhere out there, it remembered what he had done. It always would.